All right, today, great discoveries and inventions. So we're going to move away from astronomy for a little while. I've been through a couple of points on this already. The third bullet, 200 papers. It doesn't mean I read 200 newspapers. It means I've published 200 papers in the peer-reviewed literature through research that I have conducted in the 40-odd years that I have been doing research. Okay. A great invention can lead to a great discovery and vice versa. There's a synergy between these two. And I took this little clip out of a film because it really does personify something. Anybody know the film this came from? Anyone want to guess? 2001, yeah. And this is the scene where the bone goes up into the air and it comes back down as a spaceship. So we move a couple of millennia. And in that film too, you'll remember the fact that how many are there? Well, it really depends on your viewpoint. I've looked in several places to figure out what are great inventions that I thought worthy of bringing to your attention. Encyclopedia would have me talk about 322 of them. Seeing as we've only got about 45 minutes, we're going to be moving at light speed to get through all 322. No, we're not going to do 322. But I do have rather a lot of slides that we will go through rather quickly because there's lots of great things here. Probably this is the first one that is the greatest invention or the greatest discovery, because really we didn't invent fire, it spontaneously happens through lightning strikes, or if you live near a volcano, you can get fire that way too. As some of you will see if you take a helicopter tour over the volcano. We did last time we came to Hawaii. We took a helicopter tour, we went over the lava fields, and we could see the lava moving very slowly, and just spontaneously, trees would burst into flame as we were flying over them. It was really quite something to see. The wheel. This is an obvious one, is it not? That the wheel is a great invention. What could we do in today's society without the wheel? Can you imagine driving a car that had sort of square wheels? No, it's not going to happen. How far back? Well, we don't know who invented it. 800 BC, 8000 BC, sorry, maybe. The earliest wheel that has been discovered is shown in this slide, and you can see it's 5,250 years before present, plus or minus 100, it's been dated. So that puts us around 3,300 BC. So this is the earliest wheel that is currently known. The nail. You might not think the nail is a great invention. If you've done any woodwork and you've tried to join pieces of wood together without nails, you'll appreciate a nail for being able to do it. As you can see, they were made by hand up until about the 1800s. After that, they were cut. They were sheet cut. Here's an example in the diagram on the right. So the very top one is a handmade nail. The bottom one is a sheet cut nail. And then it's made from wire, which is currently what we use nails today. Over on the left side, the Roman nails, those are the sort of nails they used to crucify people with. Writing, of course, paper and writing go together. In the early days, they didn't write on paper, they wrote on clay tablets. How long has writing been with us? Well, it's been around for a while, definitely, several thousand years. We don't know exactly how long it's been around because we have to find something that has something on it with writing. The example there is Sumerian script, you see at the bottom, the clay tablet, 3000 BC, so that's about 5,000 years ago now. People have been writing. Over on the other side, you see the Chinese script, that goes back to 6,500 BC, so that's 8,000 years. So writing's been with us for a long time. And it has evolved, of course. The diagram on the right shows you how writing has changed. Well, it's a little bit blurred on this side, and I actually can't read it myself, standing right up here. But you can see, if you look over on the left and the right screens, how things have changed with time. So this is the earliest times, and then moving over to the right, more recent times. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the earliest known piece of literature that we have. And I have a sound clip for you which you can listen to, the epic being being read.
Ikbema Gilgamesh, Shunatam Ipashar, Issakaram Ana Ummishu, Ummi Inashat Mushitiya, Shamcha Kuma Attanalak, Inabirit Etlutim, Iktsironimma Kakkabu Shamai, Kisrom Sha'anim Imkutam Anatseria, Ashishuma Iktabiteliya, Unissu.
Wonderful story if we could understand it. The plough, another very important discovery invention, because prior to the plough, growing stuff in the ground was all done by hand. Those of you that are gardeners know that it's pretty hard work bending over, putting stuff in the ground and pulling the seed. I see them all nodding furiously down here. Would you like a plough at home? It would help. So it really helped them grow food quicker. It saved on labor. And when you start saving on labor, you now have free time to do something else. So societies then began to evolve, and their whole scope started to increase because they now had more time available to them. You get some interesting pictures here with the use of the plough. Top left, Saskatchewan, 1900, the Doukhobor community. You'll see at the back there was a gentleman holding the plough, and you see the plough power is all of the women in the community. I'm sure some of you here wouldn't like that. Prior to using animals, of course, or if you didn't have animals because you couldn't afford them, it was human power that had to pull that plough, as some of these pictures show. Contraceptives. They date back quite a while. We have evidence in a couple of papyri that describe what birth control was in Egypt. One recipe there is using a combination of honey, acacia leaves, lint, and crocodile dung. We'll leave it to your imagination where that mixture was placed. Ancient Egyptian drawings also show the use of condoms, so I guess this would be the family planning instructions. And for those of you that can read the hieroglyphs, here are 3 recipes in the hieroglyphs telling you what to do. Casanova describes using a lambskin covering, and of course the other way of contraception was simply to beat the stork off when it arrived with baby. Dyes now. Prior to the artificial dyes being invented, people were using natural dyes. For example, the purple in the Roman toga of the senators and the emperors came from a shellfish. So 1865, William Perkin was trying to develop artificial quinine. Artificial quinine was used to combat malaria. So he is investigating something completely different from what he actually discovered. This is what I mean about great discoveries and great inventions feeding off each other. What he found was a really colorful product when he was doing his chemistry. He got a really nice bright dye. When he started playing around with this dye, he found it was brighter than the natural dyes. It didn't fade, it didn't wash out. That's an important one, especially when we throw everything in a washing machine together, right? Of course, they didn't have washing machines then. And one thing that came out of dyes was the entire science of immunology and chemotherapy. These dyes go to different places in the body. So that's an aside from dyes. Here's the first dye that was made. It's known as Movine, 1858. On the left, I've given you the chemical formula, which most of you will just glaze over. But on the right is the actual dye itself, and it's a beautiful, beautiful color, and that's the first dye. This is the first automobile accident. It is a recreation of said accident that occurred in 1771. There you see the steam-powered automobile, sorry. There's a drummer in front. He was part of the whole ensemble because he marched in front of the automobile to warn people that it was coming. And there you have it. The very first automobile accident in 1771. What a great discovery that we can have those. I wish they hadn't. So then, electricity. Another very important one. I wouldn't be standing here giving this presentation without electricity. It's driving the lights, it's driving my pointer. It goes back, of course, to ancient Egypt. We have documented evidence there in the Egyptian papyri of electric fish. There are electric eels of which you can get a substantial shock off. Thales, who was a famous mathematician, also started making observations about static electricity in 600 BC. And they believe as early as that they were able to do electroplating. So that's been with us for a while. Where did the word electricity come from? It came from this gentleman, an English scientist, William Gilbert, who did a lot of studying on it, wrote quite a bit on it, and he called it electricus. He invented a Latin word to describe the thing that he was investigating, the thing that he was trying to find out more about. And from electricus, you get electricity. Spectacles, thank goodness for spectacles. My arms got too short about 10, 15 years ago. If we look back as far as 5th century BC, in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, we see talk of magnification to aid reading. And over on the lower left there, you see a wonderful example of how a glass of water can magnify something. And indeed, the early short-sighted people would use globes of water to magnify something so they could see it better. It's not until 1286 we see evidence of actual eyeglasses, and you'll see in these little inserts taken out of paintings, there are spectacles shown in the painting. So 1403 there, one at the bottom, 1352, and then over on the right, that one is only just dated to the 13th century. 1870s, breweries started to use refrigeration. It wasn't until 1911 that you started to get them domestically available. The ship there, 1881 Dunedin, I wanted to tell you about. It's the first ship that used refrigeration in its cargo holds to move things that needed to be kept cool. Ironically, this ship was lost at sea. It was believed to have been sunk by an iceberg. Yes, so there's the information. Such a shame. The Internet, 1962, the Galactic Network. The precursors of that are ARPANET, BitNet, Usenet. Do you remember some of this? But it's not until we get to CERN, and this gentleman here, Tim Berners-Lee, who is credited with the invention of the Internet. Yes, one man is credited with the invention of the Internet. And I remember using the early form of the Internet from CERN. He was knighted in 2004 for his work on giving us what we have today, all this information at our fingertips, generally free in Starbucks hotspots, or if you're very wealthy on this ship. Do you remember this? You're a true 90s kid if you ever heard, "Get off the internet, I need to use the phone." Do you remember when the computer internet was on the phone line? Oh, I had that problem for a number of years because we lived in a small village. This is the penetration of the internet. The dark blue is where it is essentially 100%. The very, very light blue is where it has not penetrated much at all. So you can see in North America, it's almost 100% penetration. Mexico, much less. Africa is almost devoid, but the rest of the world has got a good presence of the internet. So it's not everywhere. You may think it's everywhere, but it's not. And that does bring me to a very rapid review of too many inventions.
Do 5 minutes.
If there are any questions to this, I'm going to be outside. We'll take it outside because we need to set the room up for something else. So thanks very much.